feel so badly. I spoke to President Xi about it, and I asked to consider his release. He's not well. He's an older man and he's not well, so I did put that request out. We'll see what happens. Okay?
A Hong Kong courtroom has delivered a conviction that's now echoing far beyond the region's borders, into Washington, London, and straight to Beijing. At the center of it all is Jimmy Lai, a media tycoon turned symbol of resistance, now facing the possibility of life behind bars under China's national security law. A rare and highly personal appeal from the White House. President Donald Trump says he has directly raised the case of Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai with Chinese President Xi Jinping, urging him to consider Lai's release. Trump tells reporters he acted out of concern for Lai's age and deteriorating health, adding that he had put the request directly to Xi and is now waiting to see what happens. This marks Trump's most explicit intervention yet in one of the most closely watched political prosecutions under China's national security law. Jimmy Lai is 78 years old. He has been held in custody since December 2020 and was this week found guilty on 2 national security charges and a separate sedition offense, the culmination of a 2-year trial seen globally as a test of Hong Kong's remaining freedoms. If sentenced as a principal offender, Lai faces a minimum of 10 years in prison and potentially life. Lai is not just any defendant. A self-made billionaire, he founded Apple Daily, a fiercely pro-democracy tabloid that became a thorn in Beijing's side before being forced to shut down in 2021. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. The verdict has now cemented his status as one of the highest-profile figures prosecuted under the sweeping security law. The concern now extends beyond politics to Lai's physical condition. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Lai's health has severely deteriorated after more than 1,800 days behind bars, urging Chinese authorities to release him on humanitarian grounds. Rubio says the conviction shows Beijing's determination to silence voices defending free speech, despite earlier promises to preserve Hong Kong's separate system. The pressure is not limited to Washington. In London, Britain's government has formally summoned China's ambassador, delivering what officials describe as the strongest possible protest over the conviction. Lai is a British citizen, and the UK has repeatedly called for his release. His son, Sebastian Lai, says the family is heartbroken by his father's condition and wants London to do more to secure his freedom.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everybody kind of expected that he was going to get a guilty sentence. It doesn't make it any less devastating. Because, I think a small part of you holds out that maybe he's not going to get a guilty sentence. But I think the most surprising part is that is how thin the evidence is. Despite all that, there's essentially very, very thin evidence. There's no evidence that incriminates him. So the fact that they decided to weaponize the legal system to attack my father, it seems to be just purely out of spite and not with no legal basis. Like it's no surprise though. Over the last year alone, he lost 10 kilos. But the conditions he's being kept in, it's all aimed to break him, right? 14 days of solitary confinement is considered prolonged solitary confinement. He's been in there for 1,800, so more than 100 times. It's a form of mental torture, as many people know. And throughout it all, he's in a little cell with light blocked off, so there's no natural light, and he essentially bakes in his cell during the summer. So Hong Kong has summers, 50 summer, for example, this year, where it was 33 degrees and above. And in these conditions, he, in the cell, it goes up to 40 degrees because the heat traps. And this is a 70-year-old man who has diabetes. And so you can imagine that under these conditions, his health, it would make his health deteriorate even quicker than otherwise. And so he's had rashes where he bleeds all over his body, which leads to, muscle infections. His nails are peeling off. His teeth are rotting. We're incredibly worried about him, and obviously all of that has compounded his heart issues. Now he has heart issues.
Trump's involvement adds a new geopolitical dimension. He says he raised Lai's case during a previous meeting with Xi and has reiterated his desire to free the jailed publisher, a promise he made even before returning to the White House. For now, Beijing has not publicly responded to Trump's appeal. Next steps are already in motion. The court will hear arguments starting January 12th from Lai and 8 co-defendants, including former Apple Daily executives, on whether sentences should be reduced. But the broader battle is no longer just legal, it is diplomatic. At stake is more than one man's fate. For critics, the case represents the steady erosion of Hong Kong's freedoms. For supporters, it has become a test of whether humanitarian pressure, even at the presidential level, can still move Beijing.